so we can record this. That's good. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Again, this is JJ Risha with Pismo Ventures, and thank you for being here today. Like I said, we have Jason Fishman with us from DNA, Digital Niche Agency. Again, I'll let him introduce himself, introduce his agency, and start, he'll have the floor to talk about the investor acquisition marketing today, which is our subject. Just a quick update on the competition. So this is the second week of the competition. We in round two, I should say. Last week, round one, we had three companies that made it through. Last week through round two, we had three companies that made it to round three, which is from business to business, business to consumer, and life sciences. This week, we had clean tech on Tuesday, and today we have fintech, which is right after this, starting at 12 noon Pacific time. So we have 9 companies today in the fintech, and then that they will be presenting for that category to win that category. We will announce the we will announce the winners of the category this week's category on Saturday, which is both clean tech and fintech. Next week there are the last three events that are live judging events, meaning companies presenting in front of investors, 5-minute pitch, 5-minute Q&A, and those would be the last 3 categories. After that, we will have the round 3. We will have 8 companies moving into round 3, and round 3 would be on 2 different sessions, one on November 12th, and the other one is on November 17th. So I hope everybody who's here today, everybody who's part of the competition, including Jason and all the sponsors and all the judges and all the attendees and all the competitors, are welcome and are already registered to be part of any event that we have. So we encourage you to be part of this. Just to let you know, has been a huge interest from the investors. We're actually potentially going to have some what's called special purpose vehicles to invest into some of the companies. There are a lot of investors that are interested. So we will be creating some special purpose vehicles to invest in some companies. Also, some companies will be, there are many investors that have provided us with, that have emailed us, and they're asking us to provide introductions to the companies that have presented already. And we're just halfway through, and there's been tremendous interest. So we've been making lots of introductions to investors and to companies, and there will be more introductions moving forward. One last thing I want to say is that many of the VCs and investors are looking to potentially invest this year. So if that's the case, there will be potentially some fast tracking of some of the companies into the investors' due diligence, regardless if they're VCs or angels. Again, tremendous interest. That's what we thought will happen. No one thought that any of the investment will be done during the competition. It always going to happen right after the competition. So congrats to everyone for all the good work. And I want to say that it's not only the companies that are winning the categories. There's tremendous interest in companies that did not even win, or they're not moving up to the top because of the high quality of the companies that have been through so far. All right, so plenty of me talking about the update. Jason, the floor is yours. Please introduce yourself, your company, and take it from there. Thank you very much.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for that warm introduction there, JJ. I am excited to be here with you all today. As mentioned in the first few minutes, have heard nothing but good things about the competition and all different parties involved. So excited to talk investor acquisition marketing with you here. This is an interactive conversation in the sense of please feel free to chat. Happy to answer questions as we're going page by page. In addition, we will have a Q&A section at the end, and happy to speak to any specific type situations or inquiries as part of the group presentation here, and can also make myself available for questions. I love talking marketing, so do not feel that you need to hold back here. Gonna get into this presentation.
All right, just one quick thing I forgot, Jason, sorry. Just like after every webinar, we do have a virtual networking time afterwards. So we just posted it right now, the link and the password. So the link is in the chat, and the password is DNA 2020 VIP. Please make sure you take note of the link and the password in order to get in. Thank you. Sorry, Jason.
No, perfect. I'm going to be excited to network and socialize with everyone afterwards. Want to give you a bit of background on DNA, not as any type of promotion, but just basically explain who we are, to state why any of this matters. Going to be referencing specific case studies. All of these are based on findings from our activities here. So to let you know who we are as a team, we've been in business since 2014, have worked with over 400 brands. To date, 175 actually fundraising campaigns specifically. As it's a niche we basically fell into. We found fundraising to be a common theme, working with startup to mid-market organizations. I'll go into my background next. I have a history of working with all types of different Fortune 500, top 100 type advertisers, but I love focusing at the launch level. It's the most exciting, it's the most rewarding. There are a series of obstacles, but we'll get into different ways to see a higher success rate when addressing any of these channels. Here are some recent speaking engagements of mine. Also spoke at the Reg A Plus Equity Crowdfunding Conference with Core Connects a couple weeks back. They're custodian, notable working with many of the portals. Also LA Blockchain Summit 2 weeks ago. Have some different conversations in the works for November as well. But just to give you an idea, and I've spoken in 8 countries to date. I don't have my bio on here, but just to give you some more information on me, I am a marketer. I have been doing this for over 12 years, have experience on all sides of the marketing table, from agency to client, overseeing in-house brand marketing teams. I have worked at a mobile ad tech network and built out a whole mobile tablet advertising product that utilized print magazines, their digital properties, and have experience working with many of the top advertisers you see on broadcast or print or traditional mediums today, and have launched their initial mobile and tablet activations. Got a good understanding of what worked, what didn't work across a full spectrum of budget levels, timelines, KPIs, key performance indicators they're looking to measure. And essentially what we do here at DNA is similar to that, except we're building the whole marketing stack. We're building the whole marketing funnel. As a rule of thumb, if there's a funnel built, which I'll get into if you're not familiar with the term, there's going to be a higher conversion rate from any paid advertising traffic. So that is, some of my background there. Since starting DNA, we've produced over 9 figures of funding for clients. I am a writer for the Forbes Agency Council. You can check out my most recent article, Marketing Doesn't Work, The Truth, which talks about how to optimize any of these channels to get them to a point of effectiveness. Also have a series of equity crowdfunding articles and more to come there. I host a podcast called Test, Optimize, Scale. I believe we're on episode 15 that is coming out later today. So, always trying to position as a thought leader and share these different insights. Back to DNA. We are an investor and user acquisition team, have a unique portfolio of regulated online security sale campaigns, and play a leading role in the user acquisition marketing space. Often work with groups on both, where we'll start with their investor marketing campaign, continue on the user side, have a list of different digital asset trading exchanges as well too, where we work on both sides of it, and the investors are essentially users. What we do, starting with marketing strategy, leading into content marketing and digital ads, with an extension on influencer campaigns, direct outreach, and different creative approaches. Our preparation process, it all starts with a kickoff call, ongoing management, and getting into today's focus, investor acquisition marketing. I am looking at investors as the premium audience. If there are a series of 1,000 investors that produce a full 1.07 million Reg CF campaign, which is the limit, you not only have 1,000 new investors, often on one seat of the cap table, based on your structure, you have 1,000 ambassadors. There's social sharing that occurs. Often, loyalty purchases that are continuing from there. It is a highly desirable, again, highly valuable audience for our clients to pick up. In the past, I would really only speak with brands who are planning on doing an equity crowdfunding campaign about this avenue. Today, and seeing what 2020 has produced for the industry, which we'll also get into, I'm now speaking to everyone about it. Someone comes to us and talks about e-commerce. We say, great, here's the type of average order value you could receive potentially from an e-commerce campaign. Here's the return on ad spends we're seeing. Meanwhile, check out what we're doing with equity crowdfunding. Have you thought about doing these simultaneously? Because that is what's available for issuers of shares there. And getting back into the presentation here, how to build a investor acquisition strategy, create a marketing funnel. Again, that's where we see the top results, being able to drive targeted advertising into that funnel. What are the best direct outreach channels? We're going to go into detail about that. Marketing costs, the magic question, and growth models to optimize towards, and examples of successful campaigns is all part of today's presentation. So I have a lot of great quotes on strategy, on a plan, a marketing plan, if you will. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Planning is everything. This is where all great campaigns begin. Great in the sense that they're consistent and, more importantly, scalable. Without a plan, we're really just shooting in the dark. And I emphasize this because it's often a step that we see groups look to cut corners around. Or I'll hear things like, yes, we have a marketing plan. I'll take a look. It's 2 paragraphs in a business plan saying we're going to do some social posts and some email and engage influencers, which for me doesn't really do much. You need a full detailed roadmap. We call it an algorithmic strategy, where we're breaking down a sequence from impressions to clicks to conversions. How many times a piece of marketing has been seen, and the conversions. For investor marketing, this would be a completed lead or an actual completed investment from the marketing, so that you can look at that cost per acquisition, even return on ad spend if there's a transaction that occurs, and look to scale those different audiences. But again, it all starts with the plan. So I've built this system. It's called the 8-point marketing plan. I've written about it in Forbes. I lead workshops on this item alone regularly. I've led 3-day workshops, 3 half days, but 15 hours on just this model. The 8-point plan starts research heavy with an industry analysis, a real-time assessment of all relevant industries. And I'll often hear from clients, we know everything about our industry. And this analysis, looking at those words real time, is all about what's happening today. What are groups doing in the industry today? And I can't recall a situation where we've put one of these together for a client and haven't presented them something new. no comments that didn't include things of, oh, we didn't even realize that. We need to have an alignment and an understanding of what's occurring in your vertical before we could really start playing in it. And the competitor marketing audit then hones down even further, where I want to know exactly what other groups in the industry are doing to acquire digital market share and investors on any type of digital investor marketing campaign today. As I could tell you, and you may have heard some of the banter to begin the call, it's drastically different here in October, leading up to the election, the pandemic election at that, than it was in August, even more so than March or November of last year. So without having any of this, you're really just shutting out to the world and saying, hey, these ideas of marketing are going to work, instead of adding to the conversation that your target audiences and your competitors are already engaging in. So I want to know exactly which publishers are talking about other groups in your space who are raising funds on an equity crowdfunding platform or doing some type of raise. I want to know which influencers are talking about them, the headlines and types of content that they're really coming to the plate with. I have tools to look at how much they're spending on advertising and on which channels and with which creatives, and even when they're spending throughout the week, i.e. the top performing times of the week for them. I want to know which social media channels they're posting on, how frequent, the types of content are getting the most engagement, their email newsletter. There's tools for me to take a look at past dated emails that they've sent out, and I always sign up for their new one as well too. I believe in a statement, I think Tony Robbins first said it, of success leaves clues. And we build a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, before hopping into the meat of the marketing strategy, in this case to acquire investors. You can't miss this step. It gives you an idea of what's going to work, what's not going to work, and what to test out from here. The framework of the strategy really lives in these next 3 sections once you've gotten your inspiration from the competitor marketing audit. This includes target audiences, marketing channels, the touch points of those audiences, and creative. So for target market, I like to break it down to the persona level. I want to know, what do these audiences look like if I personify them with a fictional individual? What does that individual do on the weekends? What does that individual do for work? Where do they get influenced by? Their friends, their family, their coworkers, their adult baseball league, what have you. I want to know where they go online, where they make purchases, where they make their investments. I want to have a full idea of who these individuals are before determining the most actionable marketing messages to put in front of them. That gives me a full layout of the marketing channels I need to use to reach them, both paid and organic, meaning advertising and content marketing. I want to be able to build an approach for each of those channels, and not a game of checkers, not a, hey, I'm going to post this here and the next day expect to see these results, but a game of chess that's going to occur over multiple months at a minimum. We have Reg A Plus campaigns on a Reg A Plus filing. You could raise up to $50 million. It's all based on your valuation and your offering, but very high limits there. Those campaigns typically don't run for under 12 months, often longer to include a pre-launch or test the waters type initiative. So really important to look at this in the long run. Creative, what messaging, what visuals are going to be featured, showcased on each of these different formats to produce a strong response from those target audiences. We do a section on strategic partnerships. We lay out a perspective map and messaging sequence to reach those individuals. I'll have a page on strategic partnerships in here, and we're doing that heavily on LinkedIn. Spoiler alert today, but we'll go over some other different avenues, but talk about how it's safer over LinkedIn and you'll receive a higher response rate than we historically see over cold email. Strategic partnerships, by the way, could include co-branding opportunities, organizations with a similar goal as yours, definitely anyone with a similar target audience as yours, if you could get in contact with the administrator and look to find some type of collaborative content push. This could be a webinar. This could be a white paper or some type of article. People love getting quoted. You'd be surprised when you do this reach out who is going to promote what you write in a larger publisher or anything along those lines. Strategic partnerships are actually how I've seen things grow the fastest. We can do strategic partnerships with lead investors, anchor investors, who once they participate in a deal, other individuals follow. They're watched. So strategic partnerships is huge. And then Section 7. Section 2 and Section 7 are the most valuable to me. Section 7 is what everyone flips to, in the sense that this has budget allocations, but more importantly, algorithmic projections for each channel, both paid and organic. So as I was talking about earlier, impressions, clicks, and conversions for each channel. So if something's not working, we could identify where in the algorithm it's underperforming. We're paying too much for the visibility, the impressions, the click-through rate's not there, the conversion rate's not there, something along those lines, so we can identify where we need to make optimizations, where we need to strengthen the marketing, where we may need to put a few more A/B tests in, whether it's the audience for more impressions, the creative for more creative, the creative for more clicks, more traffic, or landing page optimization for the conversions. We could really pinpoint it. So instead of saying, hey, this channel doesn't work, let's stop it, we're saying, all right, we need to optimize at this stage. And we know that because here's where we are projecting to be at. On the flip side, if we're seeing any channel perform to outstanding levels in comparison to industry averages, we can ramp it up quicker. We could get understanding not just of that end metric, but why that type of result is occurring, and be intentional with what happens from there. So we go over these different numbers. It's important to have these discussions, whether you're working with an agency, whether you're a marketing director, and having discussions with the founder. On this call, I imagine it's mostly founders speaking with other groups, so maybe you want this prepared for you by a marketing director or a third-party consultant, whatever it may be. But communication, analysis is crucial here, and involving third parties is something I recommend. Again, even if those are internal, but people outside of yourself to review these different marketing results towards investors. And, you know, we've historically put these things together for all types of different initiatives. In many senses, equity crowdfunding is e-commerce in the sense that it is the purchase of shares on a digital platform. It could be lead generation. If you're looking at larger accredited investors, if they're asking you about offline conversations and you know, are looking to participate at larger levels, they should be working off the same terms on a Reg CF. I've seen Reg D campaigns. Reg D just means that you're going after accredited investors. Reg CF, you have to do a different filing, but you can go after accredited or unaccredited up to $1.07 million. Reg A Plus has a much more in-depth process to go live and much tougher to get acknowledgement from the SEC and costly at that, but can raise up to $50 million from accredited or unaccredited. Some groups do Reg CFs and Reg Ds simultaneously and can bring larger investors onto the Reg D filing, allowing them to raise more from unaccredited investors, and several advantages for the conversations with accredited investors. You know, this is fundamental digital marketing in many senses. I would not approach an equity crowdfunding campaign or any type of digital investor marketing initiative without these types of practices. You're selling yourself short if you do. You're doubting these channels are going to work, looking to cut corners, and are probably going to see a similar result if that's the case. And really want to be able to look at how these tools, these channels, can show you massive 10, 20, I have a 30x return case study that I'm going to show you in terms of any marketing dollar you put in and the amounts that are being raised, let alone the lifetime value of those user owners that you're bringing on. So when it comes to the actual marketing, Content marketing funnel, look at your user journey. It typically takes 7 to 17 touch points before a conversion occurs. What does that mean? Very, very seldom do you reach an investor and they say, great, here's my money, I'm converting, thanks for bringing this to my attention. Doesn't happen that way, historically, as a rule of thumb. Instead, it's more along the lines of they read something about you, maybe they click on an ad, they check out your offering page, they get there, they tell themselves they're going to come back. Looking at the percentages, they don't. But if you're able to bring them back with social media content, as you can see here, various types of content channels, which include long form blog articles, maybe on Medium, email marketing. If you can give an incentive that's strong enough for your audience to complete a lead form, this could be a Facebook ad lead form. This could be something on a landing page or on your website itself. But if you get them to sign up for an email, now you could send them a weekly email, maybe even more frequent than that. Any of these are designed to showcase you as a thought leader and therefore increase the perceived value of these prospective investors of your organization. Content marketing as a whole is all about the distribution of good, engaging content that is blueprinted to stimulate social shares and high authority links. Links in the sense of coverage from publishers and influencers. People don't believe what they read, what they see on the internet. They want to find a reason not to convert. They want to find something wrong with it. So if you have reputable third parties talking about how great you are, it goes a long way. We're going to talk about landing page optimization, and that's all about showcasing that social proof, testimonials, strategic partners, as featured on type setups can mean the world in terms of conversion rates. Google says an average conversion rate is 2.35%. If you look at that as 2%, that means 100 people come to your site, come to your offering page, come to your learn more, give us your information, Mr. Accredited Investor. We're going to send these documents out to you. And 98 of them are not going to convert. Measure it across the month, even with people coming back, 98 will not convert. But if you're able to get a 3% conversion rate, it can mean the world of difference, even with just one investor, but definitely looking at it at scale when you're talking about 100,000 visitors over the course of a few months. So it's an extra 1,000 conversions in that sense. So this is crucial. It's arguably the game. And it all happens from a good funnel. And I see a comment here. It does work if you have a warm introduction. Yes, and I'm always looking at percentages. So the majority of our business is referral based. Even with a warm introduction, if we're receiving a conversion rate of 35%, roughly a third, that's great by most standards. And that still shows the majority of warm introductions not always working. So I find that if these systems are put in place, the percentage of all introductions, whether it's from an advertisement, from a news article, from any type of organization pushing towards it, you're going to see a stronger conversion rate as a whole. When doing this, you go back to the competitor audit, you build out a publisher, influencer, and strategic partner map, third parties that you want talking about you and your brand, third parties that you believe are going to create a stronger conversion rate from any investor that's reviewing your opportunity. And any strategic partner map as a whole. Content strategy, you want to have that mapped out after looking at these other organizations. What is going to keep the audience engaged? I like to look at an offline versus online process. And when I speak to investors who are pitched on a daily basis, even with the stay-home orders today, they're still, in different meetings, getting pitched everywhere they go. They tell me they want to see groups bringing what they talked about to life. If they say they're about to get a letter of intent, if they say they're about to get featured by this publisher, if they're talking about the next stages of their product development, whatever it may be, they want to see that type of momentum the next time they speak with them. If they're getting the same follow-up a month, 3 months, 6 months later, and nothing's changed, they feel like it's potentially a sinking ship that they're going to be saving, where they want to be part of a moving train and really becoming part of that direction that's happening with or without them. They want to have a fear of missing out and see that as a consistency for many of their opportunities. So we look to create that conversation digitally, and have worked with different accelerators who put these types of programs together for groups in their cohort, where they're putting together an email drip sequence where every week they're talking about all the great things that are happening with their company. Hey, we just spoke at this event. We're doing this pitch competition next week. We brought in these tech partners. Look who was added to the team this week. So on and so on and so on and so forth. For equity crowdfunding, we raised this much last week. We were featured by this portal. This is happening. That's happening. Again, you want to really position the conversation and be able to have it amplified out to thousands of prospective investors who are in your content marketing funnel. Also, the concept of a marketing funnel is to take audiences from awareness to consideration to intent. They intend to invest, and there's still a conversion rate from those who do not. They intend to, maybe even give a verbal that they're going to, and then completed conversion. Although that's only mid-funnel, mid to lower, we'll call it lower, but the bottom of the funnel goes to advocacy, it goes to repeat conversions and repeat advocacy. Meaning, when I'm talking about stimulating social shares here, that's what we want to see on an equity crowdfunding campaign. That's what we want to see on an offline investor capital raise with digital channels supporting in it. In equity crowdfunding, we'll often see an investor come in, and then later that day or in the next couple of days, investors with the same last name or same zip code, very finite geographical area. We've heard from investors firsthand that said, I told all of these people I work with, and this guy who sent me this last deal, and they're getting involved, and we really think you guys are going to the top. That's a major goal to shoot for, whether it's for any type of digital marketing effort, let alone for investors, where trust, recommendation, endorsement goes such a long way. So being able to look at these content marketing channels to strengthen the conversion rate from people who are aware of your deal, who are considering it, or who intend, or who actually do invest, or who are investing a second time, again, becoming more and more common in equity crowdfunding. Some of our deals, over 25% of the investors have participated 2 or more times, which means they had an introductory amount and then later came back in at a much higher level. We're even looking at different types of Reg A Plus issuers who have IR, investor relation firms, working with them. And as soon as an investment occurs, they're reaching out with different forms of content. They're looking to get on the phone with them. And they'll systematically take investments from $400, $500 minimums up to $2,000 additional investments systematically. And for the Reg A Plus filings, even 6-figure investments to follow. There's more limitations for CF, but this is content marketing. This is why it's so important to have a good foundation before you start bringing advertising traffic. I want to talk a bit about the at-home investors. 2020 has shown us a lot of surprises. You know, I was leading a workshop for an accelerator the first week of March and watching them in person, thing of the past, in person, get cancellations from angel investors, VCs every day. Hey, I can't make this meeting. Hey, we're not deploying capital until further notice. Meanwhile, since March, equity crowdfunding has shown month-over-month growth in terms of raises. You could track it on a platform called King's Crowd. You can see all the live deals there, whether this is a route you go down or not at any point. It's very interesting, and I recommend you checking it out. And this is all about the at-home investors and why it's occurring. Retail level, accredited level, happening on both. Traditional channels for funding have slowed down. Spending more time online is commonplace when you talk about what you've been doing this year. Reporting, equity crowdfunding portals reporting record numbers of investor volumes, campaign success, and total raise. As more investors are participating, the social proof of these deals are leading to higher conversion rates and offerings. If you have 1,000, 1,500 investors as part of a Reg CF offering, there's strength in numbers and more people get involved. So you have more traffic, more conversions. That type of line around the block feeling is producing more investment. What you don't want is an empty restaurant sensation. You don't want to show, $2,000, $15,000 of 1.07 million raised, or 100K raised, 2,000 of 100K raised when you're really playing for the internal goal of 1.07 million. That could lead to that empty restaurant sensation of, hey, this looks good. No one's here. It's empty. Is there something I don't know about? Is there something wrong with this place? I'm confused. Versus that, that spot that is now popular. There's a line around the block. You get in there, they may be able to fit you in about an hour and a half. They're not sure. It's a different type of regard that you hold for these spots. So for these businesses. So if an equity crowdfunding has a long list of investors attached to it, it's going to get a higher conversion rate. All of that snowballs into why there's been such explosive growth in this vertical this year. Common investment vehicles are being confronted with less certainty, and long-term private equity is more appealable for that reason. The Robinhood investor is also becoming popular, with retail investors hopping on and looking to do their own research and find things that are exciting to them. So even if they're putting a small percentage, say 10% into high risk vehicles, such as equity crowdfunding opportunities, it could be the reason why there's so many more individuals involved this year. Markets are changing and audiences are seeking out new industries and vertical leaders. And among the quality of deals, high risk, high return mindset, and overall reset that's occurred this year, equity crowdfunding is on the rise. It is part of the conversation. Shark Tank investors, various types of financial and entrepreneurial thought leaders are getting involved. So, whether it is an equity crowdfunding deal, or again, you're just looking to use digital channels to generate leads for your investment or nurture the leads that are in your funnel about closing and about the deal, this is in the background for them. My Facebook and Instagram feed has marketing products that contact me, but also a list of equity crowdfunding deals, a list of groups that are raising funds directly from their site, a list of educational products that say, hey, you want to do these private equity deals and get involved early stage, and here's what it looks like once it hits the public market. It is multiplying on a daily basis in terms of how many ads, how much how many marketing funnels are out there for these. So we talked about content marketing. Now we want to speak about traffic sources. I'm going to get into some advertising placements here. Going to look to wrap the slides by about 10 o'clock, so about 20 minutes here. Again, feel free to ask any questions. Throughout this, I'm happy to do the Q&A and speak further in networking thereafter as well. But my background, I was building these traffic algorithms, as I mentioned, for some of the first mobile and tablet campaigns for major advertisers. There are all types of tricks, tactics that I'm going to be able to go over here. Advertising is the primary thing that we do at DNA, and because it's so closely tied to performance. The majority of a marketing budget goes directly into ads when it is part of the campaign. We could associate, I'll go over an advertising algorithm here. Let's say it's $1 to each click, $1 to each visitor, and know, hey, if we're hitting the 2% conversion rate, here's the amount of investors we're going to hit, here's the return. It's extremely results oriented. That doesn't mean anyone can launch ads and suddenly you'll have investor leads or equity crowdfunding backers the next day. This is the process to get performance from your setups. So programmatic display banners. Programmatic's a fancy way of saying we use software to bid every millisecond to buy ad units at wholesale. Hidden secret of the internet, the majority of digital ads go unsold at the publisher level. So ad networks were created to buy from publishers their remnant unsold inventory at pennies on the dollar, and you can buy those, whether it's Forbes or the Wall Street Journal or Fox News, CNN Money. You can buy these ads at $3 CPMs. That's cost per 1,000 impressions on those. Facebook, we're generally getting $10, $20 type CPMs. Again, cost per 1,000 impressions. So you're able to buy the ad units at wholesale. There's all types of targeting mechanisms. So beyond bidding every millisecond, optimizing with AI every millisecond to find the audiences that are working best, the time and day of week that are working best, various types of behavior that individuals are showing on other sites to define them as in market, and using predictive technology displays that we're reaching the right user at the right place. You can run ads along specific keywords. So you can run ads along articles that say equity crowdfunding or cryptocurrency or Ethereum or smart home, Internet of Things, cannabis, any type of emerging vertical. You can make sure you have a presence alongside, automated retail or whatever it is that your business is based around, whatever it is your investor is reading about. You could also reach the audience everywhere they go online. Over 99% of the web, 99% of mobile placements are available on these programmatic advertising exchanges. And with programmatic real-time bidding, you can leverage the machine learning to find the exact audiences, the individual pockets of performance, and optimize towards those, scale towards those. All of that to lead to social advertising. And Facebook ads are not only a focal point of digital advertising, they are the center of digital marketing. I don't know if you've seen the film Social Dilemma on Netflix. If not, I recommend you check it out. It is talking about the power of these platforms, and you can leverage that by using the social ads, which is an artificial intelligence that takes behavioral and predictive patterns to the next level. Facebook will serve ads to people who do not know they want what you're offering. And that works perfectly for an investment deal where they can plug data points together, such as, more commonplace, conservative investments with an affinity for a specific industry, with a household income or net worth at a certain level, and activities that have occurred in the past 7 days to define them as in market for your investment opportunity. That's why this is so powerful. I've been talking with VCs about equity crowdfunding since 2014, and leading into the Reg CF launch of May 2016. And in preparation for that was told an investor will never click on an ad. Investors aren't on Facebook. Investors aren't on Instagram. There's over 1 billion daily active users on Facebook and Instagram. They're scrolling. They're scrolling. They're scrolling. The conversion behavior on Facebook is substantially different as of LinkedIn or in other places where you may be reaching these individuals. They're open to exploring when they're on Facebook and Instagram, and can miraculously be found looking at your investment deal and participating in it, even though they were not set out to do that when they started their experience. Not to mention, Facebook and Instagram's data is unique. I talked about their patterns to, be able to identify who it is. I mean, they know exactly what their users are liking, unliking, befriending, searching, removing from their search history. They have all the data partners in the world. We upload email lists. We have pixels placed on different websites that we have partnership in, that we own. We have Facebook pages that we own, that we don't even run ads from. They just collect audiences. This all allows for a more advanced Facebook activation, market testing, the ability to A/B test, 4 to 5 different audiences, 4 to 10 different audiences, see which one's performing best on virtually small budgets per day, budgets that would not be appropriate for programmatic advertising, as an example. You can see how groups are responding. You can see, where to optimize towards. We can draft different types of messaging, see which ones resonate best with those investors. We could identify the top channels in placement. Facebook has, Instagram, it's got WhatsApp, it's got the audience network, which is their own display banner advertising network across major websites and apps. There's all types of placements that you can tap into with Facebook itself. Analysis of post landing page funnel, conversion cost of each investor. For instance, if we're getting $100, $150 average investor cost, and we're getting a $1,000, $1,500 average investment value, that may be more reflective of a Reg A plus campaign. That's a 10x return on advertising spend. That's the type of thing where groups say, how many of these can I bring on next week? And they'll stack hundreds, even thousands of different investors, as I'll show you in some case studies here. When you talk to portals, they generally say this is the strongest marketing channel. Work your networks, get those warm introductions. I love that comment earlier. But if you're looking to do more prospecting, social advertising is a great way to do it. And then, as I was taught ad tech, I was pointed at towards retargeting. Retargeting is those ads that feel like they're following you around. Retargeting gives you the ability to reach that investor every single day. You can cap it to once a day if you want, cap it to 3 times a day. You don't have to create fatigue. But that continued presence is very, very important. There's a stat that say we see over 60,000 advertisements a day. That includes any logo on any product that you may see, but it's easy to forget things, very easy. More times than not, going back to those percentages. But with retargeting, you can have that repeat exposure, that repeat presence, and this becomes a highly valuable tool. Native advertising, this refers to sponsored content. Sponsored content you can buy on a cost per click, and generally somewhere between 20 cents and 75 cents. These are those placements at the bottom, at the side, maybe one of every 5 articles that you're seeing on a publisher's site, depending on which site it is. And you're only paying for people to click through, so it's great for prospecting. Could be used for retargeting so that your prospective investors are then seeing articles on these different sites about you. But we typically use it for prospecting. Influencer marketing, if we're going influencer direct, we seek out individuals with 60,000 to 2 million followers. Anything above that changes the performance levels. We look for a 1% engagement rate. We have advertising partners where we can run ads from influencers' accounts. And once that influencer opts in, we could do the retargeting from there, and it's coming from their page. A lot of advancements in the influencer marketing industry, where historically it was very hit or miss on whether an influencer was going to be leaning more on the branding or direct response side of an activation. The media value you get from an influencer is generally great. Branding is there. The direct response could vary. If you're going influencer direct, I would recommend 10 or more influencers, not putting all of your eggs in one basket, and being very diligent on reviewing the analytics, because there's a lot of gray area in terms of tracking what's actually occurring. And oftentimes the influencers that you're not expecting much out of will outperform the ones that you are the most excited about. Search advertising. For investor marketing, can also be hit or miss. I recommend going mid to low funnel, meaning keywords that are very, very, very specific. Health tech, early stage investment opportunity. Health tech, name of the portal, investment opportunity. Something along those lines. You're going to be limited on advertising inventory, how much you can actually spend, how much traffic you could actually get from those placements, but that's where you're going to see the best results. Meanwhile, not all issuers are seeing performance from search ads that see results from social ads. So keep that in mind as you are running these. You want to do keyword research, figuring out where you can rank, how competitive it is, what you're going to be paying per click, per visitor. You're going to show up in these first few placements on Google or Yahoo or wherever you're placing your ads, test out various types of messaging, stronger than SEO for an equity crowdfunding campaign in the sense that you have a short timeline so you can immediately appear on these platforms. You want to optimize by keywords, by ads, and by audiences, and play around with different retargeting concepts. There's a lot of Google products that work very well for that. Landing page optimization. The single biggest variable with ads is the conversion rate. Can generally hit a good audience at a good price. With the right creative optimizations, you can get a good cost per click. But all that being said, the conversion rate is going to be the single most important metric in the sense that it defines your cost per acquisition of an investor. It defines your return on ad spend if there's a transaction that occurs. Here is a gold IRA advertising campaign we worked on. As you can see, you have the hero image. Your eyes go to that hero image first, maybe after the logo based on the hierarchy, but it's designed to take your eyes there first, then go back up to the top. Invest in gold. As a user, I know exactly why I am here. I'm here to invest in gold. I then have the messaging underneath the sub-hero of get our free gold guide to learn how gold can protect your investments and retirement. Wow, I have value that is available to me right away, very clear. Again, I know why I'm here. They are featuring a field, a lead form right here with 4 fields, 5 technically with the box click, and then the call to action of get free gold guide. Very clear what I can do. If I feel comfortable putting in my name, city, phone number, and email, I can get a gold guide and get more education. It doesn't cost me anything. I'm not committing to responding to anybody. I have a phone number in the upper right-hand corner. I can talk to a gold IRA expert immediately. If I'm not sold yet, I have these 3 different breakdowns. There's a rule that involves the number 3 where people can remember 3 things. If it said 4, I'd probably have trouble remembering it. If it said 2, may not be enough information, and there's different stats on odd numbers. 3, I can tell you, protection, diversification, profit potential. Very easy for me to absorb. And most importantly, before we get to what's called below the fold, which is an outdated term, going back to initial website advertising placements, even getting into print, but as seen on Fox News, Forbes, ABC, CNBC, Reuters, if those were all fake logos, it would still appear attractive to your target audiences. That's another hidden secret, is people aren't really looking at the publisher logos, just the dynamic that it creates of, wow, something is happening here. I don't know what it is, but people are talking about it. This is legitimate. If you scroll further down, you'd see testimonials and case studies and layered in areas. Every other area has something to create more social proof. When creating landing pages, best practices allows for multiple landing pages to A/B test where you're getting the best conversion rate. You can play around with the hero text. You can try different calls to action. You could put different breakdowns with product description there and look at subtle differences and even extremities in terms of conversion rates in comparison. Definitely do this for lead generation. You can then email these audiences as you're taking them to an equity crowdfunding platform, as you're following up with them about the pitch deck or any materials that you submitted initially, area you want to focus. And, as we're starting to wrap up here, the last tactic that I want to talk with you about is investor outreach on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is underrated in terms of outreach. Their ad product is showing strong evolutions. I still prefer Facebook, whether it's B2B business titles or investor marketing by far. But for outreach, investor outreach, any type of strategic partner outreach, LinkedIn is underrated. You can build a list using LinkedIn Navigator with all types of different search criteria. You can invite 100 prospects to connect each day. We're generally doing about 75, but you can do 100 prospects from each day. That's 2,000 in a calendar month, a business calendar month, seeking a 20% acceptance rate, which is 400 per month. These new contacts are great. You're building your network. Excellent. More importantly, you could send a conversational message and manage replies. And then more of a direct response type message to follow each week for the following 3 weeks, anticipating a 10 to 20% response rate. You could get 40 to 80 responses. Based on that, I've seen much higher. I've seen Calendly links with scheduling systems that go directly in there, and 40 to 80 calls being scheduled on a monthly basis. Or if you're going after the right profiles, if you're going after, I don't know, investors that have left testimonials on your competitors' equity crowdfunding pages, as many of the portals show testimonials. If you're looking at large scale, investors for your industry. If you're looking at strategic investment groups and organizations that make recommendations to high volumes of retail investors, all types of things that you can do here to go after the exact individuals you're looking for. Check with your legal counsel before doing this. There are different rules around what you want to say, not say, based on the stage that you're at. So, I'm just talking about it from a marketing perspective and sharing what we've done with clients. But there's something about being able to see your face and your mutual contacts and your background that is associated with trust, and therefore a stronger response, where I get contacted by 20 to 50 vendors a week through cold messages, be it on LinkedIn or email. And if it's on LinkedIn and I seem to know people that they know, and they look to be, full of integrity, they look to be good people, I don't know how to gauge that, but you get that sense by looking at somebody. That happens with LinkedIn outreach, and is all part of why there's such a large response rate. Also, there's no spam tools in there yet. Email, the majority of emails you'll send will get blocked by a spam filter. Here are some DNA publishing partners. I want to state a couple things about performing against the odds. Most campaigns don't work. If you look at marketing campaigns, if you look at the success of equity crowdfunding to the full goal, most marketing campaigns don't work upon first attempt. However, looking at brand, and looking at brand launches, 90% fail in the first year, followed by another 90% the second year. Marketing strategy is a long game full of positive and negative responses. A focus on analytics and the optimizations to improve allows for identifying, moving, and managing. You can manage it to a point of effectiveness, but first being able to identify. And with a well thought out strategy, team of experts consulting on the algorithmic findings, and an unstoppable commitment to growth hack your milestones, success is available. That is a common factor I see in groups that are continuing to raise. We're with groups that are on their fourth round and have raised 8 figures of funding through equity crowdfunding, and we've been part of it all the way through. Groups that in their third round in just over 2 years now, and raising 7 figures on each round. Not quite on the current round that just went live, but will be without a doubt, because one investor audience produces the next. They get a next set of investors, or at least peer-to-peer marketing on their next round from these groups. Marketing is the front line of performance and is attributable with the success stories of the top brands today. It's not a matter of whether fundamental channels will work for your brand, but more of a question of how to get these digital platforms to work for you. I will also say engage experts. As good as your investor marketing strategy is, it can always be stronger and is ever evolving. Even the best marketers share drafts of tactics. I talk with all of the other equity crowdfunding marketing agencies. I talk with the portals. I talk with consultants. I need to refine my tools on a weekly, if not daily basis. Even with a large portfolio in this growing vertical, you want to be able to engage experts and look at performance metrics, share with peers your creative to refine and reach maximum performance levels. Talk to brands in your industry. See consultants that can save you time, prevent losses, and increase revenue. Explore agency or vendor partners that have documented results with your specific audience. There's a lot to that for digital, and the data and the first party and third party that they're using and can leverage for you. Survey your prospective targets and tweak your approach. If it's not working, look to get an individual contact and ask why. Tell them you value their opinion for some reasons that are personal to them, and you'll be surprised by how much they'll open up and how much you can reshape from there if you're open to it. Reach out to speakers of digital conferences like this and ask questions on your current strategy in contrast to the latest or even future industry trends. I do this at every conference I go to. I never leave a conference without befriending different speakers, whether I'm speaking at it or not. They are a wealth of information. They have things going on that, as mentioned here, are the future, and they're there for a reason. They want to do some type of networking, some type of thought leadership. It could just be a rate card, but unless they're the top speaker at the conference, it's probably not it. They're probably there for the networking, and they will warmly respond at a higher percentage than some of the conference attendees. They'll give you ideas on what you're doing. Meanwhile, all worthwhile relationships need to be maintained with monthly communication. There's this stat I use for sales. This would include selling an investor, where most salespeople don't follow up past the first touch point. And then it shows the percentage drop for touch point 2, touch point 3, touch point 4. Only 10% of salespeople follow up more than 7 times. Meanwhile, on the flip side, when you look at buying behavior, like 1%, 2% happens on the first, we'll call it 1% happens on the first touch. It goes slightly higher for the second touch, the third follow-up, fourth follow-up. 90% of sales, again, purchase of shares, occur from the 7th to 12th touch point, the 7th to 12th follow-up. So it speaks to how important frequency is. And if you want to maintain a relationship with a consultant, with a strategic partner, with anybody who matters in your long-term algorithm, probably going to be more effective if you reach out to them monthly, even just with a random question, or how was September for you? What do you think about this winter? You think there's going to be a lot of snow out in your neck of the woods? Whatever it may be. That was a rough loss for the Dodgers last night. Whatever it is, find something to communicate with these people, and it'll go a long way. So I'm going to make this deck available. And, if you give me your email address, or if I get a list at the end, or whatever it may be, I'm happy to share this with you. The only way to measure anything is with numbers. That's why we do an algorithmic strategy. I'm happy to share these different numbers. I could actually provide some more case studies too, by request. We saw 15.1x return and a $32 cost per investment on this campaign. Amazing founder. Dawn was being featured right and left by different publishers. Those articles are being picked up by other publishers. She was working hard every day, and the ads did a great job to retarget audiences that were going through there, bring in some historical audiences that we've used to get strong results there. These are the type of numbers that are available in equity crowdfunding, and we can be used for your own lead generation. Here's a campaign that did 31.76 return on advertising spend. We shoot for a 1% click-through rate. The conversion rates were off the charts. Again, a CEO who was featured right and left, really worked hard, didn't sit back and just let marketing do its thing, was able to create content on a daily basis. Very, very impressive. Here's a Reg A Plus campaign that we worked on. That Reg A Plus campaign produced over 7 million. The ads we ran showed over 13.69x return on ad spend. You'll see a higher cost per acquisition of each investor, but a much higher average order value, much higher average investment value. Here is a Reg A Plus case study for tech hardware. $197 average cost per investor, over 4.4 million produced just from Facebook ads, which is interesting because what I'm seeing right now is 20 to 50% of your raise being produced from advertisements, meaning the other 50 to 80 is being produced from the portal. It's being produced from those publisher coverages. The portal, the investors can see your campaign raising. They get more and more involved. Over 3,300 investors. There were over 4,000 investors on that campaign alone. Very easy for them to raise additional rounds of capital on these platforms because you have that many ambassadors in your network at this point. We were involved in this campaign for 4 weeks. 2 weeks were just getting their Facebook ads back live because they were banned from Facebook because one of their belts has a built-in knife. We had to go through extensive steps to make those ads live again. It's why we were brought in. They had a Facebook advertising team in-house. We have all types of great quotes here too, by the way. But 13.64x return on ad spend. We shoot for 10. We were essentially able to double what their campaign had when we first started, about 500, and with about 277K in ads. The platform, the other channels went on, the content marketing, people in their funnel went on to produce the remainder and the full 1.07 Reg CF raise. Here is robotic case study, very low cost per click, great performance overall. Here is a cannabis fundraising case study, actually a security token for cannabis, 9.6x return. This was a fun one because we had to be very creative in how we ran the ads. We went through about 5 ad accounts as they were being blocked. We couldn't shut it off. I think the first month was at a 22x return on ad spend. They had other months that were 3x return on ad spend. But when the ads were shut off, not much was happening. So this is the first campaign we worked on with them. Went on to a Reg D from there. Another platform, another example, strong return. Have some information on the team here. Have team members from other portals, top content marketers, you name it. This is my email address. This is my phone number. This is in the deck. You can take a screenshot of it. You can write it down. I love strategic marketing. I define good marketing as skill sets that include good problem solving. So, if you're hitting any type of obstacles, if you're in planning, if you're in anything like that, do not be bashful. I am here to, make more relationships, always excited to hear about new projects. So let's get in contact.
Thank you, Jason. That was really good. I really appreciate the time. A lot of details there. Wow. I learned a lot, that's for sure. So, and that's not my world. So how about that? I learned quite a bit today. Well, thank you. That was really good. So you have 4 questions. If you go and hover over your screen, you'll see it's under the Q&A. You should see 4. If you want to click on that, and you can answer those one at a time. You see the questions?
I see the chat Q&A. Here it is.
Yeah, there
Took
you
me
go.
a second there.
Yep.
It's the Zoom setup I have here. Okay. David Smith. I'm a startup with initial traction and revenue building.
Oh, there's the 2 above that one. So there's one says, can you give examples of ad exchanges?
I actually don't see those, but yes,
Oh,
ad
that's
exchanges. And I see David Smith and Craig Tucker and could answer both of those. Let me stick on David Smith for just a moment. We'll go back to the advertising exchanges. I am a startup with initial traction revenue building mom. What do you recommend as a budget amount monthly for an initial 6-month campaign to test, optimize, and scale? Glad to see the test, optimize, and scale there, as that is, that's the name of the podcast, but my full philosophy towards marketing, summarized in 3 words, which is difficult to do, by the way. So I will tell you what we look at as minimum amounts to spend. I'll tell you what Facebook looks at as minimum amounts to spend. Google varies based on the sense that it's all a matter of which keywords you're looking to be on, and the limited search inventory that may be associated with that. We don't really run campaigns that are under $100 per day on Facebook, $3,000 per month, and we're usually recommending 5 or more, which is about 133, 166, somewhere in there is where we're generally at. So depending on our management fees, what we're doing, things along those lines, but we're generally somewhere in that ballpark. And Facebook would say don't do anything less than $50 a day towards a conversion campaign, meaning anything you're looking to measure conversions on. Even at $50 a day, you're going to be on the lower end of their bidding structure, and performance is going to be more expensive for you. That's why we don't like doing under 100 a day. Plus, you have to take into account that you're actually not running one campaign, you're going to be running multiple. So if you're starting with 4 audiences, 5 audiences on $100 a day, you're looking at $20, $25 per day per audience. 20 clicks, 20 of those people visiting your site a day, it's pretty thin data. That's why we wouldn't go down to 50 or anything like that. Thin data is a small sample size. It's like hearing a survey that only had 20 people involved. Okay, I get it, but is there any bias there? The numbers don't necessarily show anything that's conclusive. Also, I love how you put 6 months, because we'll see a lot of groups try to run something for a little bit, pull out when it doesn't. We've had campaigns that have produced 0 results in 3 weeks, and by week 6, we're surpassing all performance goals that they had set out in terms of cost per acquisition. What does that mean? If they would have shut off after week 4, after 1 month, if they said, hey, Facebook doesn't work, we're not a Facebook brand, they would have lost not only the value of the spend for that first month, but they would have never had that channel that they were then able to take with them after.
Yeah, there's no real rule of thumb there, huh? Because they could prematurely stop, and that's not good.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. I don't know if you saw those. So did you give examples on exchanges? You did. Did you do that? Okay.
No. Examples of exchanges. One of the most popular ones right now is the Trade Desk. I think.
What is it? Which one again?
It's called the Trade Desk. Okay. And the Trade Desk, I'll tell you a few different entry points. First of all, if you want to work with them, I think it's about $18K a month as a minimum of advertising spend, and you get 3 reps for that. You could talk with them and see something else around it, but it's usually larger advertisers that are buying in there. That being said, and I have no affiliation with any of these groups, there's a platform called Choozle, and Choozle is built on the Trade Desk, and I don't believe it has a minimum. And it's a much simpler DSP, demand side platform to operate.
Jason, can you type the names in the chat for?
Yeah,
that would be great. Yeah.
So let me put
Trade
it
Desk
in
and
there.
Choozle. I like the name.
Yeah.
Choozle.
Yeah, and they're out of I think Boulder, Colorado. We haven't worked with them in a while, a few years back. Those are interesting to take a look at. AppNexus is a more advanced platform. I think they have $1,000 fee per month versus a minimum.
Okay.
But it's an advanced platform. I wouldn't actually recommend you to go there unless you have a programmatic media buyer who's going to be doing the buying on your behalf, where those other platforms have much stronger customer support and are an easier user experience. There's also OpenX, MediaMath. There's a bunch of there's a lot of them in the industry, but those are ones I would look at for programmatic media. And you often want to get a good conversion rate. It's easier to market test on social or on search before going to a programmatic exchange.
All right, next question is, can you recommend an equity crowdfunding platform? One or more.
There's a great platform that's coming out called Title III Funds, and they will give you white glove service. And I say that because you could get brushed under the rug at other portals. If you look at platforms, the top platforms over the past few years, Start Engine, WeFunder, Seed Invest, Republic, Microventures, Net Capital are up there. I would do your research. If you're speaking to a few groups, that white glove service aspect is what I would seek out, because you're going to an equity crowdfunding platform to tap into their existing investor audience. You're going to an equity crowdfunding platform to really leverage their platform and their conversion rate and the trust associated with it. And you want to be able to maximize what that tool can do. So if you have dedicated success managers working with you, it's going to go a lot further than if you're using a self-serve platform, which a lot of the portals are now pushing people towards. It's going to go a lot further than, being one of the smaller groups there, and they're focused on their own Reg A Plus campaign, or they're focused on, larger tech partnerships or real estate partnerships that they have. I could tell you all the politics. I could tell you a lot of the things I've seen. The customer support is by far at the top of the list that I would look at.
So Pismo Ventures is also partner with Title III Funds, so we'll vouch for that too. So,
and I mean that authentically. It's not just because you guys are associated. You want to be the top campaign on a portal. So being able to find groups that are very thirsty for success, in the sense that they want to take on top market position, versus catering to other relationships that they may have, is something I would talk to an issuer about. But I named a bunch of platforms. There's no reason to just speak to one or anything like that.
There's a lot of them.
Make your own decisions. But those are things I would look for, because I've seen people sold on the portal, and then we'll hear complaints about them. Regardless of who the portal is, make sure that you have a dedicated account rep who is going to go, the extra mile for you.
All right. I just want to remind everybody, we do have a virtual networking hour after this. We're going to go through the questions and answers as quickly as we can. There's still about 5 left here. If anyone has a question, please put it in the Q&A, because the chat would be really hard to kind of go through it through the chat. So from Craig again, what conversion rate would you consider successful for a landing page?
So, Google defines an average conversion rate again at 2.35%. That encompasses all conversion rates, meaning a lead form, an equity purchase, everything all in there. When we're talking about a landing page, it depends how many fields there are. It depends how in-depth those fields may be, whether it requires financial info or any type of private stuff that may have a lower conversion rate. That being said, I think 5% is great. I think 10% for good quality leads, even higher. We've seen campaigns that have done 20, 25% for very small amounts of information. But if you're somewhere between 2 to 5% on a landing page, that's a good place to be. That's obviously a wide range, but the whole idea is the conversion rate on the landing page is probably mid-funnel. So you have another conversion to measure after that. So the quality is more important. If you have a 1% conversion rate, but very high quality because there's a lot of fields, and the next measurement you're looking at is that much higher because of it, that's more effective.
All right. Any tips for B2B markets such as utilities? That's a tough one.
Yes. And the first thing that comes to mind for B2B is find a strategic investor. Find an investor with a group in your industry, maybe a future client, future partner, future something that could benefit from your success. Strategic partners seem to be less ROI oriented and less aggressive in many senses. There's less personal tie than a friends or family or personal network investor. Strategic investors can be a very good route to go. Once you start getting to the world of, let's say, equity crowdfunding, you want to be able to mirror investment headlines. You want to be able to talk about what's being discussed in the news. If it sounds irrelevant, sounds like outdated industry, sounds like anything like that, or if it sounds like something they read in Business Insider that day, it's a completely different feel. And you want to make whatever your business vertical is very easy to understand. We went through programmatic advertising today. The best programmatic advertising buyers are data scientists. The strongest, the most successful at them are the ones who can break it down so that any founder can understand. Any CFO at any organization can understand. I don't want to use the term dumb it down, but make it as easy to absorb as possible. Make it so a consumer who is looking to invest in growth verticals hears what you're talking about and says, wow, I get that. And that makes a lot of sense, for the direction the world's going in. This is great. The ability to make things easy to comprehend is understated. I've spoken at many conferences with a gentleman named Ryan Folan. Ryan Folan is a 4-time TEDx speaker, and he has a piece of technology that he calls the 3-1-3 method. 3, you break what you do down into 3 sentences. This can be difficult. 1, you combine those 3 sentences into 1. 3, you break that 1 sentence into 3 words. I got my test optimized scale.
I love it. Actually, that's great. I love it.
Yeah, because people
you don't
can understand
have that much time. You don't.
No. And he's taken a lot of thought leaders through that process. He's on all types of podcasts and shows and everything like that. Whether you do that method or whether you do something else, what I'm trying to point out is you have to make what you do as easy as possible to understand. You may think talking for 5 minutes about your product is helpful. It's not if they can't fully grasp what you're talking about in that first sentence. If they're asking to look under the hood, great. If you just start going in there and talking about the carburetor and the alternator and this and that, and someone doesn't understand the basic mechanics, you've already lost them.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you can't describe something in 30 seconds, most investors think that you're not going to be able to do it anyways. So it got to be boiled down. All right, so I'm sure if you heard the Quibi, right? And they shut down after raising $1 gazillion. And I think Meg Whitman was the CEO, I think. So the question here is, so what is a rough budget for marketing? Startup dilemma is to spend on marketing or product development integration.
Yeah. So let's talk about investor marketing first, and then how that could reflect projections for other types of launch marketing, because launch marketing, there's a lot more variables, but it's all about what you're looking for that marketing to produce. So for equity crowdfunding, there was a number that was being aligned on with different agencies of 10%. And what that means is when everything's working, that algorithm, the impressions, the click-through rate, the conversion rate, when everything's working, you could anticipate spending about 10% on marketing. So if it's a $1.07 million goal, 100K, maybe 120, 150 based on services and timeline, meaning if you produce that in 1 month or if you produce that in 12 months, and human capital that you have working on it. That does not mean anyone can spend 100K and hit a full equity crowdfunding goal. That's simply there to prepare. That being said, when we're working with the group, we don't over 100K. We don't want groups committing to spend that much even up front. What we like to see is good areas to test. So if a group's starting with us, just throwing these numbers out, these aren't any type of, minimums for us or anything like that. Or, I could advise you on this specifically, but we usually see groups start somewhere between 25 and 75K with us, somewhere between 8K and 25K a month for 3 months. That way they're continuing to work towards it. We've seen groups start at lower and just for 1 month, but on a lot of the successful campaigns, it's usually starting somewhere there that gives them enough velocity, and then they're ramping up. And if they end up spending 100, even if they end up spending, not a top performing campaign, but getting them there, like 200K, they're still seeing a strong return. They're still seeing, 800K more, 870 in investment value outside of that. It all comes down to what you're looking to produce. If you want to spend, 5K, 3K that first month, it's going to take you a while to optimize that. Then it's going to take you longer to scale. You're looking at a much longer timeline. So what you're trying to produce and the timeline in which you're looking to do it around. The same thing with a marketing launch. If you're saying, hey, I need 1,000 B2B leads, and off those 1,000 B2B leads, I'm expecting 20 sales, 200 sales, depending on what that sales process is in there. And then, each average order value is $10,000, the lifetime value, or, whatever it may be. You need to look at spending the marketing at that cost per lead, or a percentage of the total lifetime value of all of those clients. That makes sense in there. Same with e-commerce. You want to work backwards from the end goal. You want to sell $1 million, your average order value is $1,000. You need 1,000 purchases. Let's say it's $100, you need 10,000 purchases. If it's a $20 cost per acquisition, look on the purchase, $30. That's why that strategy is so important. It should lay it all out. You could find a starting point. You could look at that as only running it for a few months or scaling the budget after a few months, but it's important that the starting point gives you enough conclusive data.
All right, let's see, we have 4 more questions, I guess. One is, well, I think you answered that. Any recommendation for water technology funding? That's a little bit too specific, but it's kind of utility related. I think you answered that question too. So let's jump to Dan. Have you seen much success in funding when the founders have only developed the go-to-market enough to realize a professional has to step in?
I'm looking for the question here. I don't see it, but I just want to.
It's in the Q&A. It's in the Q&A. If you open the Q&A, you'll see it. But I'll repeat it again. Have you seen much success in funding when the founders have only developed? Okay.
I see it there. Sorry, it's showing answered open. Dan, yes. Have you seen much success in funding when the founders have only developed the go-to-market enough to realize they need a professional? I've seen success at all stages with funding. I've seen success with groups with an incredibly high valuation and a technology that was run on Indiegogo with a very, very low raise, then produce 2.83 million on a Reg D accredited investor raise, then over 5 million on a Reg A Plus campaign, all pre-revenue, technically pre-product. I've seen groups that are very far along have trouble raising. I've seen the full gamut. That being said, it all comes down to that story, that social proof. Social proof comes in many formats with the team. It all comes down to the use of proceeds and the map that you're drawing out and making investors want to move forward on that arrangement together. So I have seen success in funding when the founders have only developed the go-to-market enough to realize that they need a professional. It's generally a longer road. It's generally more variables. But if you're running for longer on an equity crowdfunding platform, and you're spending 50K and walking away with 500, that's still success in many people's books.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I think that's it. These are all the questions. So if there's anyone that would like to ask a question via live audio, please just raise your hand, and then we'll bring you in to do that. Anybody? All right. So maybe we'll do like going once, going twice. Gone. All right. So we're going to jump. So please make sure